software engineer, intermittent faster, author of everything. But what we're going to talk today about is vibe coding. I'm right now just typing on my other computer how to build a mobile app for the Neil Haley show. And I'm going to learn to vibe code. Why? Because I want to be able to create anything when I want. Have you played with vibe coding yet?
No, I haven't. We avoid it as software engineers. Um, that's usually what you're supposed to say. No, but we have had different companies out there. I do have vendors that do vibe coding. We're kind of it's a little bit of a taboo thing within the software development world, but we know it's out there. It gives you that ability. And granted, I haven't really researched too much for vibe coding, but like you were talking about earlier, just creating a chat bot. I like that. And like I said, I built one in Java years ago, and I was running Python in the background just to be able to chunk things up. It was great, but I always like, how do you really build that proof of concept through software development? Like you mentioned, I do write books on fiction, love my fiction, but then I also like the nonfiction where I might write a book on management styles, writing a book on fasting. But would I write a book on software development? No, just
No,
because
so
I know
so
it
is
changes so much.
that so
I
is
love
software
it.
development going to be around? So
Yeah.
here's the thing: I never learned to code,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of consider myself a semi-tech person.
Hmm.
I think you guys have the patience of saints in ways I
Hmm.
would just like forget it,
Yeah.
because every time things are going to break,
Uh-huh.
you have to fix them,
Yeah.
and it's almost
Yeah.
like go ahead.
Yeah, and really, it's at breaking. That's the big part. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to take apart my VCR and put it back together and make sure it worked. Same thing, the old alarm clocks, where you hit it all the time. I used to take those apart, put them back together. So same thing with coding is that once you have it put together, you need to be able to break it apart and running certain sets of data through to get your exact results back. It's difficult to do with a lot of the LLMs out there today because you can ask ChatGPT or Claude different questions and you get different responses. So it's variable. And because in reality, what we used to look at in code in the past is you submit certain data to it. Here's our baseline. Here's what I'm expecting back. So you know that if you sit in a separate set of files, it should be able to give you the correct response. But of course, with LLM, it's like, what are they really going to do? That's why you had to put guardrail rails up for all your LLMs because it doesn't want to give you information back like, hey, how do I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And all of a sudden it tells you how to repair your car or change your oil. No, I didn't ask that question, but that's the sort of responses. It's
Right.
good because you need to be able to say, if I submit certain questions in this context, this is the only information you want to look at, and these are the results you want to have. So those test cases are essential. I remember going through various files in the past, and that's what I used to primarily work on is large data files. And you'd have to segment them out to say, all right, within this chunk of data, this is how I'm going to respond. But then you look for anomalies in it. And I remember I was talking to one client and I said, we'll take the data and we'll concatenate it. And the guy was like the president of the company. And when I mentioned concatenate, he's like, what is that? I never heard that word before. I was like, seriously? Concatenate it means you're putting things together. I can take different elements of the file and I'm going to put it together and concatenate. And it was funny because he'd never heard that word before. And he stood up, grabbed the dictionary, looked it up, and he's like, holy crap, it means put stuff together. I'm like, yes, that's
But
what we
is
do
it
in coding.
in your industry, they're not
Mhm.
doing a lot of vibe coding, but a lot of
No.
software engineers are being forced to vibe code to
Hmm.
be faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then
And
you go,
with our stuff, it's pretty well established because we do a lot of telecommunications and within the contact center. So we have different modules like on answer, disconnect, on transfer. So there's a lot of modules, and those are pretty steady. And of course, we have to look at just making some minor changes to it. But if somebody said, "Hey, you need to build this from scratch," then yes, we would use Vibe coding and build that out from scratch. But
And
a lot of the
that's where
stuff,
the time comes. It
hmm
takes a lot of time to create something. They said an app that would have took a year and a half to build now could take 2 weeks to build.
yeah,
That's the change.
yeah. Yeah, and it has to be well architected as well. So, when you think about well architected, okay, I'm going to do that within 2 weeks. You have to design it um, specifically to say, here's how the different users are going to interact. Here's how the security is going to overlay those users. Because security is a big thing. You just don't want to open it up for anybody to be able to hit it. And then for data retention, how long is that data going to reside? Where's your database going to be set up? Where's your servers going to be running? So there's a lot of aspects
Yeah.
just to create an application. So 2 weeks is pretty tight, but it has to be very well defined.
Now, so basically, your engineers need to be able to know what.
Well, when I interview people, I make sure they know how to solve a problem. That's the biggest thing. I don't really care what school they went to. I don't care what degree they have. Can they solve a problem? Can they go through and look at an issue and break it down to give me the right answer? I spoke to a guy years ago. He worked for Midway Gaming, a big gaming platform. This is years ago, and he says, I don't really care if you have a degree in gaming. I care if you can solve a problem. And I always ask people basic questions of, hey, I'm going to have a bunch of developers in my office next week. How do you start planning? And I want them to break down how to create a meeting. And they're like, wait, I thought I'm here for a software development role. Well, can you at least build a meeting? That's a simple one. And think about all the things that you need to bring to that meeting. And I always trip people up on water because they always forget like to bring bottles of water. I'm like, this is a simple thing. Are you just going to have people sitting there just dehydrated? No. Have a
No.
damn bottle of water out there for them on the table while they're coding so they can sit. I don't care about the coding. I care about, can you plan? And then when you plan, you know exactly all the steps that go into that. And that's really what your software
So how
developers need to
easy you
know.
think vibe coding? Look at us in graphic design. You don't need a graphic designer anymore. I
Right.
still think you need a coder. I still think you
Yes.
need an engineer for certain things,
hmm
building, creating things. But in
Yes.
6 months, will you?
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And that's something I've been looking at is like, so I've been mapping out 2026 just within my team and knowing all the different projects we have. I'm really saying, how do we, expand and make these people? I want to make sure that they're around by 2027. I don't want to obsolete their jobs and have them find something else. And it is important if it's vibe programming, perfect. I know I mentioned that to one of my engineers, one of my uh, tech leads. Like I told him about a certain client that we were using, and he's like, they vibe program. So he was not happy about it to find out one of
See.
our
So, but you're
vendors
gonna
were vibe
find out
programming.
it's gonna be very interesting for sure.
Mhm.
All right. So, the best place to go. I mean, this is a great conversation. The Broncos are gonna win. You and I are the only ones that believe it. And
Yep,
everyone in
yep,
Denver
absolutely.
and me, they're going to
Yeah.
win and they're gonna win
Yes.
big. And because again, if you look at the Patriots record in Denver, not very good in playoffs,
Nope.
not very good on a Sunday night. And
Yep.
all you're doing is replacing a quarterback that still have same skill sets. The
Uh-huh.
difference is not the experience.
Yep.
That's the difference.
I wonder if I have my old photo. Let's see. Do I have this photo? It'd be interesting if I can find this. No. Because I actually had a photo of from 10 years ago when the Patriots were in town for the AFC playoffs against Peyton Manning. I was right there at the visitors locker room with Tom Brady walking in, and my wife took a picture off the TV with poor Brady's head down. It's just
I
got a
like
big
how
grass stain on
that's
the back.
great. We, as a Pittsburgh Steeler fan as well, we hate the Patriots. We're going to beat
Yep.
the Cheaterits. They're back to the
Yes.
cheater. That it says great rivalry. Sunday
Yes.
night, Sunday they will win, and then they were going to beat the Los Angeles Rams to become Super Bowl champs again. I think they're going to play the
Yes.
Rams.
One
It's not going to be
o'clock Mountain. I'll
Seattle.
be there. I'll be
All
there.
right. Okay. That was the Neil Haley Show, guys.